advised. Late this afternoon, I spoke with Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. So, Senator Manchin, on this issue of the letter that 47 Republicans signed last week, the negotiations are resuming now in Switzerland. Do you think that letter could affect those negotiations and whether a deal is struck?
Well, Steve, it sure isn't going to help. There's no way that letter can be of any help for us getting an agreement that's going to be good for us to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And that's the whole purpose of what we're doing in negotiations. So, you know, I signed a letter. There were 10 senators with Menendez that we signed saying, let's wait until March 24th, lay the deal out. Let's see what we've negotiated with our other 5 NATO partners and go down there. So we have the P5+1. We're not in it by ourselves. Let's see what we have. And then I've signed a piece of legislation, the Menendez-Kirk. It's bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans, that says if we don't have a deal by the end of June, we'll double down on our sanctions, which we know will be effective and it'll hurt them. So I've done and put myself in position. And Steve, we've said this, if this is policy or is it politics? If you're wanting to do policy, it should be bipartisan. No one ever approached me about a letter. Even tell me what the content, show me the letter, or ask me if I would want to sign. I would not have signed it, but I would have had input of why I thought it shouldn't be done. Was it, do you think the motive here then primarily from Tom Cotton and the Republicans was to make a political statement, or was it to have some effect on the outcome of the negotiations? Well, either way it has to make a political statement. I mean, either way it goes, it's a political statement to be made. It wasn't intended to, nor was there an attempt to make it bipartisan. If you want pure policy here, especially within the Senate, you better have Democrats and Republicans, at least a few on both sides, working together.
Well, you mentioned
you
mentioned the bill that you and Senator Menendez are behind. There's also this legislation from Bob Corker, Republican of Tennessee, Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman. He wants to introduce a bill that would require Congress to approve any deal before it's implemented. And over the weekend, White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough sending a letter to Corker urging him to reconsider that. He wrote, quote, "We believe that the legislation would likely have a profoundly negative impact on the ongoing negotiations, emboldening Iranian hardliners, differentiating the U.S. position from our allies in the negotiations, and once again calling into question our ability to negotiate this deal. The administration's request to the Congress is simple. Let us complete the negotiations before the Congress acts on legislation. If we successfully negotiate a framework by the end of this month and a final deal by the end of June, we expect a robust debate in Congress." Well, let me ask you, what is the role in your mind, the proper role for Congress here? Because the case that the Republicans are making, the Democrats who've signed on to the Corker legislation make is, hey, look, any deal that's struck is going to involve easing sanctions that Congress passed. So shouldn't Congress get a vote on any deal?
Well, Steve, first of all, Bob Corker's a dear friend of mine. He came and he asked me to look at the letter or look at the bill and sign on. I've looked at the bill, and I'm just not comfortable signing on to that bill till I see if we're able, through diplomacy and diplomatic measures, get a commitment and a treaty, if you will. Let me say this. You know, when we had at the time, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when the White House and the State Department wanted to drop bombs on Syria, I spoke out very loudly against that because I didn't know what it was going to prove. We weren't going to take out Assad. We weren't going to be able to get the weapons of chemical weapons off the table, if you will. And we were able to convince and change because of the input. We worked through the process. We didn't get the final sign-off, but they've worked out a deal with Russia, and now we have chemical weapons taken off the table in Syria. I think that was a success. So I'm going to do everything I can through the process we have. I'll be outspoken when needed. I'm signed. I'm in a position now to make sure that a treaty, a good treaty, is going to be signed. If not, then we're going to double down on sanction, which we're serious about. And the 24th, the end of this week, we should have a complete layout of where the deal is. So I would say, let's wait and see what comes forth, and then make the decision, whether it be on the Corker or any other legislation. Yeah, well, so, and that's the question then, is how much time do you want to wait here? You're talking about the end of this month, the 24th. Apparently we'll have a framework. If there's going to be a deal, we'll know what the framework is. The White House now also putting out the word. The actual specifics of the deal, though, maybe not until mid-June, maybe not till late June. Would you be willing to wait, and will the Senate be willing to wait that long? Well, the framework basically is going to tell us the path they're going down. I want to see that framework. You know, everybody's saying they don't know what's in the deal. I wanted to have a briefing, so I went and called the State Department, and Samantha Powers called me back. We had a nice chat. I went through everything that I heard at the Netanyahu speech, everything that I've seen and read about. And she was very frank and very direct. It was a very good conversation. They've been very open, and they're willing to continue to meet and be very open of where they are in the process. So I feel that I have been getting the knowledge and the input I need, and I'll continue to ask for that. But I'm willing to, let's say, on March 24th, look at the deal. Look at the diaphragm, if you will, the diagram of the deal. And then be able to see and keep updated by the State Department to find out what areas we can, whether it's, you know, the time or the length of time that we're talking about, or the breakout time, all the different things, or the centrifuges, or the unfeathered access, all these things we're concerned about. I'm determined, as every other senator here is determined, that Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. We all have different directions and different ways to get there, and I feel that basically there's a process in place, and we should work with the process we have.
All right, Senator Joe Manchin, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Steve.
This weekend, Senator